Alright, listen up, stays, and honestly, even if you're not a stay, you're gonna want to hear this one because it's absolutely wild. We all know Stray Kids as one of the most hardworking, self-producing K-pop groups in history, right? 8 guys who literally built their empire from the ground up, writing their own songs, choreographing their own stages, and pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into every single comeback. But here's the thing most people don't talk about enough. What happens when all that success, all those world tours, all those million-selling albums finally translate into real money? What do these guys actually do with it? Do they splurge on supercars? Penthouse apartments? Designer wardrobes? Well, sure, maybe some of that. But what's truly heartwarming and honestly jaw-dropping is what they chose to give to the people who were there before the fame, before the screaming crowds, before the Billboard charts. Their siblings. Their brothers and sisters who watched them leave home as teenagers chasing an impossible dream. So the real question is, which member dropped a gift so expensive it could literally pay someone's annual salary? Who surprised their sibling with something so luxurious it made headlines? And who sits at number 1 with a present so outrageously generous that even other idols were shook? Buckle up, because this list is not just about money. It's about love, gratitude, and 8 young men who never forgot where they came from. Let's get into it. Number 8, Seungmin, the quiet brother who spoke loudest with his wallet. You know what's funny about Seungmin? In a group full of explosive energy, wild humor, and chaotic variety show moments, he's often the one standing slightly to the side with that calm, almost professorial vibe. The guy who looks like he'd rather be reading a book or watching a baseball game than screaming into a camera. And honestly, that's exactly what makes this story hit so much harder. Because when Kim Seungmin decides to do something for the people he loves, he doesn't announce it. He doesn't post about it. He doesn't make a scene. He just quietly does something so ridiculously generous that when people find out, they're left standing there like, wait, he did that? Yeah, he did. And today, we're talking about the gift he gave to his older brother that had stays absolutely losing their minds when the details surfaced. Now, before we get into the actual gift, you need to understand something about Seungmin's background, because context is everything in a story like this. Kim Seungmin was born on September 22, 2000, in Seoul, South Korea, and he grew up in what most people would describe as a very stable, very grounded, middle-class Korean family. He has an older brother, and while Seungmin has always been relatively private about his family life compared to some of the other members, the few moments he has shared on Bubble, on V Lives, and during fan meetings paint a picture of a sibling relationship built on deep mutual respect and quiet, unspoken affection. You know the type. They're not the brothers who are constantly hugging and saying "I love you" on camera. They're the kind of brothers who show love through actions, through presence, through reliability. And Seungmin? He took that philosophy and turned it up to 11 when the money started coming in. See, here's something people often forget about Stray Kids' trajectory. They didn't blow up overnight. Their debut in 2018 was solid, sure, but it wasn't until around 2020 and especially 2021 with albums like No Easy that they truly exploded into the stratosphere. And Seungmin, throughout all of those lean early years, was one of the members who talked openly, in his own understated way, about wanting to repay his family for all the sacrifices they made. His parents supported his dream of becoming an idol when he auditioned for JYP Entertainment through a public audition. Not a street casting, not a connection, a straight-up open audition where thousands of kids showed up hoping for a miracle. And he made it. His family believed in him when the odds were astronomical. So when Stray Kids started touring the world, selling out arenas, and racking up album sales in the millions, Seungmin didn't forget. He never forgot. And the gift? Let's talk about it. According to details that emerged through fan-translated bubble messages and subtle mentions during a fan sign event in 2023, Seungmin surprised his older brother with a full luxury designer watch, and not just any watch. We're talking about a timepiece from a high-end Swiss brand, the kind of watch that sits in a glass case at a department store with a security guard standing nearby. Fans who pieced together the details from his descriptions estimated the watch to be in the range of approximately 3 to 5 million Korean won. That's roughly 300 to 800 USD. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, that's number 8. That's the lowest on this list. And yeah, that should tell you something about how absolutely insane the rest of this list is going to get. But let's not downplay this for a second, because 300 to 800 for a watch is not a casual purchase. That's not, oh, I saw it and grabbed it, money. That's deliberate, intentional, meaningful generosity. And what made it even more special was the way Seungmin apparently gave it. He didn't wrap it up in some extravagant box with a ribbon and a card. According to what fans pieced together, he literally just handed it to his brother during a family dinner, casually, almost awkwardly, like it was no big deal. Classic Seungmin energy. The kind of guy who would buy you something worth thousands of dollars and then act embarrassed when you try to thank him. His brother, reportedly, was completely caught off guard. And why wouldn't he be? Imagine your younger sibling, the kid you probably used to argue with over the TV remote, the kid who used to steal your snacks from the fridge, suddenly handing you a luxury Swiss watch like it's a pack of gum. That's the kind of moment that recalibrates your entire understanding of how much someone has grown, how far they've come, and how deeply they care about you. And here's the emotional layer that really gets me. Seungmin has mentioned in various interviews and messages that his older brother was one of the people who quietly supported his dream from the very beginning. Not in a loud, cheerleading kind of way, but in the way older brothers often do, by not discouraging him, by not telling him it was impossible, by simply being there and letting him chase what he wanted to chase. In Korean family culture, that kind of silent support from an older sibling carries enormous weight. The older brother is traditionally expected to be the responsible one, the one who sets the example, the one who stays on the conventional path. And for Seungmin's brother to watch his younger sibling walk away from that conventional path, dive headfirst into the brutal world of K-pop training, and then actually make it, there must have been a mix of pride, relief, and probably a little bit of wow. He actually did it, disbelief. So that watch? It wasn't just a watch. It was Seungmin's way of saying, I made it and I didn't forget you. I didn't forget that you let me dream. And honestly, if that doesn't hit you right in the chest, I don't know what will. Now, I know what you're wondering, if this is number 8, if a luxury Swiss timepiece worth thousands of dollars is the starting point of this list, then what on earth are the other members doing? What kind of gifts are we talking about at number 5? Number 3? And God help us, number 1? Well, all I'll say is this, you're not ready. You think you are, but you're not. Because the generosity level in this group doesn't just go up incrementally, it skyrockets. So stay locked in, because the next one is going to make you look at the youngest member of Stray Kids in a completely different light. Number 7, Felix, the boy from Sydney who crossed oceans and never stopped giving back. Okay, let's be real for a second. If you know anything about Stray Kids, if you've spent even 5 minutes in this fandom, then you already know that Felix is the kind of human being who makes you genuinely question whether angels walk among us. And I'm not even being dramatic right now. This is a guy who radiates warmth like a human sunbeam, who has a voice deeper than the Mariana Trench, but a heart softer than cotton candy, and who, despite being one of the most famous fourth-generation idols on the planet, still tears up on camera when he talks about his family back in Australia. And that right there is what makes this story so incredibly powerful. Because when Felix gave his sisters one of the most thoughtful and expensive gifts on this entire list, it wasn't just about spending money. It was about a boy who left everything behind at the age of 16, his home, his school, his friends, his family, to chase a dream on the other side of the world, and who never, ever stopped thinking about the people he left behind. Let me take you back to the beginning, because if you don't understand Felix's journey, you can't fully appreciate what this gift meant. Lee Yong-bok, that's his birth name, was born on September 15, 2000, in Sydney, Australia. He grew up in a Korean-Australian household with his parents, his older sister Rachel, and his younger sister Olivia. And by all accounts, the Lee family was tight. Like, genuinely close in a way that goes beyond the typical family dynamic. Felix has talked about it multiple times, how his sisters were his best friends growing up, how Rachel was the protective older sibling who always looked out for him, and how Olivia was the little one he felt responsible for even as a kid himself. They were a unit, a team. And then, in 2017, everything changed. Felix auditioned for JYP Entertainment, not in Korea, but at an overseas audition held in Australia. And he made it. At barely 17 years old, this kid packed his bags, said goodbye to his mom, his dad, his sisters, his entire world, and flew across the ocean to a country where he barely spoke the language to train as a K-pop idol. Let that sink in for a moment. 17. Alone. In a foreign country. Training 12, 14, 16 hours a day in a system designed to push you to your absolute breaking point. And the hardest part? He couldn't just go home on weekends. He couldn't just drive across town to see his sisters. His family was literally on the other side of the planet, separated by thousands of miles and a time zone difference that made even phone calls complicated. If you've ever watched Felix talk about those early days, the trainee period, the survival show, the moment he was almost eliminated, you'll notice something. His voice doesn't crack when he talks about the hard training. It doesn't crack when he talks about the exhaustion or the pressure. It cracks when he talks about missing his family. Every single time. There's a famous V-Live moment where Felix was talking to fans late at night, and someone asked him what he missed most about Australia, and he just went quiet for a few seconds before saying, "My sisters." Just that. 2 words. And the chat exploded with crying emojis because everyone could feel it, that specific kind of homesickness that doesn't fade with time. It just becomes something you learn to carry. So now, fast forward to 2022, 2023, Stray Kids are absolutely dominating. World tours selling out stadiums across North America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. Multiple million-seller albums. Brand deals with luxury fashion houses. Felix himself became a global ambassador for Louis Vuitton, one of the most prestigious and iconic fashion houses in the entire world. The kid from Sydney who used to film dance covers in his bedroom was now sitting front row at Paris Fashion Week, rubbing shoulders with Hollywood celebrities and gracing the covers of international magazines. And what did he do with that success? What did he do when the checks started hitting different? He thought about Rachel and Olivia. According to details shared through bubble messages, fan interactions, and subtle references Felix made during fan sign events throughout 2023, he gifted both of his sisters matching luxury designer handbags. And we're not talking about entry-level designer here. We're talking about premium, top-tier pieces from one of the world's most coveted fashion houses. Fans who analyzed his descriptions and cross-referenced the details estimated each bag to be valued at approximately 3.5 to 4.5 million Korean won, which puts the combined total for both sisters in the range of roughly 500 to 7,000 USD. 2 bags. 2 sisters. 1 brother who wanted them to know, even from thousands of miles away, that he carries them with him everywhere he goes. And here's the detail that absolutely wrecked the fandom when it came out. Felix didn't just ship the bags to Australia in a box with a note. No. He apparently held onto them and waited until he could personally hand them to his sisters during one of Stray Kids' tour stops in Australia. He wanted to see their faces. He wanted to be there for the moment. And when he finally gave them the bags in person, face to face, probably for the first time in months, fans who caught glimpses of his demeanor at the next fan sign said he was practically glowing. Like, more than usual. Like a guy who had just experienced something that no amount of sold-out concerts or chart-topping albums could replicate. The joy of giving something to the people you love most. And think about what those bags represent beyond their price tags. Felix is a Louis Vuitton ambassador. Fashion is literally part of his professional identity now. So when he chose designer handbags as his gift, he wasn't just giving his sisters something expensive, he was sharing a piece of his new world with them. He was saying, "This is the world I live in now, and I want you to be part of it. I want you to carry a piece of this with you." Rachel and Olivia watched their brother leave home as a teenager with nothing but a dream and a suitcase. And now he's coming back with luxury gifts that most people only see behind glass in flagship stores. If that doesn't make you emotional, you might want to check if you still have a pulse. But here's what really gets me about Felix's story. It's not the monetary value, although yes. 500 to 7,000 combined is absolutely nothing to sneeze at. It's the distance. It's the sacrifice. Every gift Felix gives his sisters carries the invisible weight of all the birthdays he missed, all the holidays he spent in a practice room instead of at the family dinner table, all the late-night phone calls where he probably told them he was fine even when he wasn't. That handbag isn't just leather and stitching and a designer logo. It's an apology and a love letter and a promise all wrapped into one. It's Felix saying, "I'm sorry I'm not there, but I'm working this hard because of you. For you." And you know what the most Felix thing about this whole story is? When fans brought it up and tried to praise him for being so generous, he apparently got flustered and tried to change the subject. Because that's who he is. The guy who would move mountains for his family and then act like he just handed someone a cup of coffee. Unreal. Absolutely unreal. Now, if you think a combined $7,000 in luxury designer bags is impressive and at IS, just wait until you hear what's coming next. Because the member at number 6 didn't just give a gift. They gave something that literally changed their siblings' daily life. And the price tag? Oh, it's climbing. Fast. Number 6, Bang Chan, the leader who left home at 13 and came back a provider. If there's one member of Stray Kids whose story makes you physically sit back in your chair and just think truly think about the cost of chasing a dream, it's Christopher Bang. Bang Chan, the leader. The guy who holds everything together, who produces tracks at 3 a.m. when the rest of the world is sleeping, who carries the emotional weight of 7 other members on his shoulders like it's the most natural thing in the world. But before he was the leader of one of the biggest K-pop groups on the planet, before he was 3 Ratch's backbone, before he was the guy doing Chan's Room at midnight connecting with millions of fans across the globe, he was a 13-year-old kid from Sydney, Australia. Standing in an airport terminal, saying goodbye to his mom, his dad, his younger sister Hannah, and his baby brother Lucas, not knowing if he'd ever actually make it. 13. Let that number sit with you for a second. Most 13-year-olds are worried about homework, about fitting in at school, about what game to play after dinner. Bang Chan, at 13, made the decision to move to a completely different country, alone, to become a K-pop trainee at JYP Entertainment. And here's the part that most casual fans don't fully grasp. He didn't debut for almost 8 years. 8 years. From 2010 to 2018, Christopher Bang was a trainee. Do you have any idea what that means? That means he watched other trainees debut. He watched people come and go. He survived lineup changes, concept shifts, and the constant, gnawing uncertainty of not knowing if today would be the day the company told him it was over. For nearly a decade, this kid lived in dormitories thousands of miles from his family, training until his body ached, writing songs in tiny studios, and calling home on shaky video calls where he'd see Hannah and Lucas growing up through a screen. Hannah, his younger sister, and Lucas, his youngest sibling, they essentially grew up watching their big brother through a phone. Think about that from their perspective for a moment. Your older brother, the one who used to play with you in the backyard in Sydney, suddenly disappears to Korea when you're barely old enough to understand why. And he doesn't come back in a month. Or a year. Or 2 years. He's gone for the better part of a decade. You see him on holidays, maybe, if the training schedule allows it. You watch him on a survival show where he's literally fighting for his career. You see him debut, struggle, grow, and eventually explode into global superstardom. And through all of it, all you have are those video calls and the occasional visit. That's what Hannah and Lucas lived through. That's the context you need before we talk about the gift. Because when Bang Chan finally reached a point in his career where Stray Kids were headlining world tours, selling millions of albums, and he had the financial stability to do something truly meaningful for his family, he didn't hesitate. Not even for a second. According to details that surfaced through a combination of fan interactions, subtle references during Chan's Room sessions, and information shared during Australian tour stops in 2023, Bang Chan gifted his younger siblings, specifically Hannah, a full luxury shopping experience that included high-end designer pieces and premium tech items. But the centerpiece of the gift, the one that fans absolutely could not stop talking about, was a top-of-the-line Apple MacBook Pro paired with a complete creative tech setup, monitors, accessories, the whole 9 yards. Because Hannah had apparently expressed interest in pursuing creative work, content creation, and digital arts. And Bang Chan, being the meticulous, thoughtful, borderline obsessive planner that he is, didn't just buy her a laptop and call it a day. No. He researched. He consulted. He made sure every single component was the best available option for what she wanted to do. Fans who tracked the details estimated the total value of the combined gift package, the MacBook Pro at its highest spec, the peripherals, the additional designer items he threw in for both Hannah and Lucas, to be in the range of 10 to 14 million Korean won. That's approximately 7,500 to 10,500 USD. For his little sister and brother, the ones he left behind when he was barely a teenager himself. And I need you to understand something about the way Bang Chan gives gifts, because it tells you everything about who he is as a person. He's not flashy about it. If you watch his content, if you listen to how he talks about his family, there's always this undercurrent of, and I don't know how else to describe it, gentle guilt. Not the toxic kind. Not the kind that eats you alive. But the kind that comes from being deeply aware that your success came at a cost, and that cost was paid not just by you, but by the people who had to live without you. Bang Chan has talked about this in Chan's room multiple times. There are moments, and long-time stays know exactly which ones I'm talking about, where he'll be casually chatting with fans at 1 a.m., and someone will ask about his family, and his entire demeanor shifts. His voice gets softer. His eyes get a little distant. And he'll say something like, I just wish I could have been there more. That's it. No dramatic monologue. No tears. Just a quiet, almost whispered admission that the price of his dream was measured in missed birthdays, missed milestones, and missed moments that he can never get back. Lucas was literally a little kid when Chan left for Korea. By the time Stray Kids debuted, Lucas had grown into a young person that Chan had to get to know all over again through intermittent visits and FaceTime calls. And Hannah? Hannah went through her entire adolescence with her big brother on the other side of the world. The school events he wasn't at. The family dinners with an empty chair. The moments where you just want your older sibling to be there, and they can't be because they're in a practice room in Seoul at 2 a.m. learning choreography for the 15th time that day. So when Bang Chan handed Hannah that MacBook Pro setup, when he gave her the tools to pursue her creative dreams, it wasn't just a gift. It was a transfer of belief. It was Bang Chan saying, I chased my dream, and it cost us time together. But I want you to chase your dream too, and I want to make sure you have everything you need to do it. He was investing in her future the same way his parents invested in his. He was completing a circle. And the fact that he included Lucas in the gift package too, making sure his little brother didn't feel left out, making sure both siblings felt equally valued and loved, that's leadership. That's not the leadership you learn in a boardroom or read about in a management book. That's the leadership that comes from being the oldest kid in a family, from carrying the unspoken responsibility of setting an example, from knowing that your younger siblings are watching everything you do and learning from it whether you realize it or not. There's a fan account from a lucky stay who attended a fan sign in Sydney during the Australian leg of a world tour, and they asked Chan what his happiest moment of the year was. And Chan, the guy who had just performed in front of tens of thousands of screaming fans, the guy whose album had just gone multi-platinum, the guy who had literally everything the industry could offer, smiled and said it was seeing his sister's face when she opened her gift. Not the concert. Not the album sales. Not the awards. His sister's face. That's Bang Chan. That's the leader of Stray Kids. A guy who has achieved more by his mid-20s than most people achieve in a lifetime, and whose greatest joy is still making his little sister smile. And you want to know the kicker? When fans tried to praise him for being so generous, he literally deflected and said something along the lines of, "It's not enough. I want to do more." Not enough. The man spent up to $10,500 on gifts for his siblings and said it wasn't enough. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about Christopher Bang's character, nothing will. But hold on, don't get too comfortable, because we're only at number 6. The gifts are getting bigger. The price tags are getting wilder. And the stories? Oh, the stories are about to get so emotionally intense that you might need to grab some tissues. The member at number 5 did something so unexpected, so deeply personal, that it wasn't just a gift, it was a life-changing gesture. Stay tuned. Number 5, Hyunjin, the artist whose most beautiful masterpiece was a gift for his sister. Alright, let's talk about Hwang Hyunjin. And I mean really talk about him, because this man is one of the most fascinating, multidimensional human beings in the entire K-pop industry. And the story of what he did for his older sister is the kind of thing that makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about idols and their priorities. Now, if you're a casual observer, someone who maybe saw Hyunjin trending on Twitter, caught a fan cam of him dancing, or stumbled across one of his legendary stage performances, your first impression is probably something along the lines of, wow, that person is unfairly beautiful. And yeah, fair enough. Hwang Hyunjin is widely regarded as one of the top visuals in all of K-pop, not just in his generation, but across generations. The bone structure, the proportions, the way he moves on stage like gravity is a suggestion rather than a law. The man was practically engineered in some celestial laboratory to be a performer. But here's the thing about Hyunjin that most people don't immediately see past the visuals and the dance skills. He is deeply, almost painfully sensitive. Not in a fragile way, in an aware way. He's the kind of person who notices things, who picks up on the small shifts in someone's mood, who remembers the little details, who processes the world through an emotional filter that's always running at full capacity. And that sensitivity? That deep, intuitive emotional intelligence? It extends most powerfully to the person he's been closest to since the day he was born, his older sister. Hyunjin was born on March 20th, 2000, in Seoul, South Korea, and he grew up with his older sister in what he's described as a warm, close-knit family environment. Now, Hyunjin is notoriously private about his family, more so than several other members, but the moments he has shared about his sister are some of the most genuinely touching things he's ever said publicly. In various fan sign events and bubble messages, he's described his older sister as someone who was always there for him, always believed in him, and this is the part that gets me, always understood him in a way that not everyone could. Because let's be honest, Hyunjin is not the easiest person to understand on a surface level. He's an artist. He paints. He draws. He pours his emotions into abstract canvases that most people would need a gallery guide to interpret. He feels things intensely, expresses himself through movement and color and sound rather than straightforward words. And according to what he shared, his sister was one of the few people in his life who never asked him to explain himself. She just got it. She got him. That kind of sibling bond, the kind where someone sees you, truly sees you, without requiring a translation, is rare. It's precious. And Hyunjin knows it. Which brings us to the gift. Oh, the gift. During the period of 2022 to 2023, as Stray Kids' fame reached absolutely stratospheric levels and Hyunjin himself became a global ambassador for Versace. Yes, Versace. One of the most iconic luxury fashion houses in history, something shifted in how he approached his relationship with material things. He's talked about it subtly in interviews and messages, the idea that luxury, real luxury, isn't about owning things for yourself. It's about being able to give the people you love access to a world they never imagined they'd touch. And that philosophy crystallized into one breathtaking gesture for his older sister. According to fan-pieced information from Bubble Messages, fan sign conversations and references Hyunjin made during a 2023 fan sign event, he gifted his older sister a curated luxury jewelry set, and when I say curated, I mean Hyunjin-level curated. This wasn't a random trip to a department store. This was a carefully selected collection of fine jewelry pieces, a necklace and matching earrings from a premium luxury brand, chosen with the kind of artistic precision and aesthetic intentionality that only someone like Hyunjin would bring to the process of buying a gift. He reportedly spent weeks considering options, looking at designs, evaluating how pieces would complement each other, and ultimately selecting items that he felt reflected his sister's personality and elegance. Because of course he did. This is a man who approaches a birthday gift with the same meticulous energy he brings to choreographing a performance or composing a painting. Nothing is accidental. Nothing is good enough. Everything has to be exactly right. Fans who analyzed the descriptions estimated the total value of the jewelry set to be in the range of approximately 15 to 20 million Korean won. That's roughly 11,000 to 15,000 USD. For a jewelry set. For his sister. Let that number marinate in your brain for a second. $11,000 to $15,000. On jewelry. For the woman who watched him leave home as a teenager to become an idol trainee, who worried about him during the survival show, who cheered for him from the audience of his earliest performances, and who never once made him feel like his dreams were too big or too strange or too impossible. And here's where the story gets really beautiful, because the gift itself is only half of it. The other half is how Hyunjin chose to present it. Now, you'd expect a guy who's literally a Versace ambassador, a guy who walks red carpets and attends fashion weeks, to do something extravagant, right? Some grand presentation with flowers and cameras and a dramatic reveal? Nope. Not Hyunjin. According to what fans gathered, he gave the jewelry to his sister privately, at home, during a quiet family moment. No audience. No fanfare. Just a brother and a sister, in the space where they grew up together, sharing a moment that belonged only to them. And reportedly, Hyunjin wrote her a handwritten letter to go with it. A handwritten letter. In an age of text messages and Instagram DMs and quick voice notes, this man sat down with a pen and paper and wrote his sister a letter. And if you know anything about Hyunjin's artistic nature, you know that letter probably wasn't just words on a page. It was probably a work of art in itself, thoughtful, emotional, carefully worded, with every sentence carrying the weight of years of gratitude and love that he may have never fully expressed out loud. Because that's the thing about sensitive, artistic people, they often struggle to say what they feel in real-time conversation, but give them a pen and paper and they'll write you something that makes your soul ache in the most beautiful way possible. His sister's reaction, from what fans could piece together, was exactly what you'd expect, overwhelmed, emotional, probably a few tears. And Hyunjin? Hyunjin reportedly cried too. Because of course he did. This is the same guy who cries during emotional performances, who tears up when fans sing his songs back to him, who once broke down on stage simply because he was grateful to be there. Emotions aren't something Hyunjin hides from. They're something he lives in. And in that moment, giving his sister something that represented not just his financial success, but his artistic journey, his aesthetic growth, his evolution from a trainee kid to a global fashion icon in that moment. Every emotion he'd ever stored up about their relationship probably came flooding out at once. But let's zoom out for a second and think about what this gift symbolizes on a deeper level. Hyunjin is a Versace ambassador. He lives in the world of high fashion, luxury brands, exclusive events. His daily life involves things that most people only see in magazines. And yet, when it came time to choose something for his sister, he didn't just grab a Versace piece and call it a day, which he easily could have, probably at a discount or even for free. He went out of his way to select something from a premium jewelry brand that he felt specifically suited her. Not his brand. Not his image. Her. That distinction matters enormously. It shows that Hyunjin doesn't see gift-giving as an extension of his own identity. He sees it as an act of truly seeing another person, understanding their tastes, their personality, their essence, and finding something that honors who they are. That's not generosity. That's artistry applied to love. And isn't that the most Hyunjin thing you've ever heard? Now, I can practically hear you through the screen going, $15,000 in jewelry at number 5. What's left? And honestly, the way this list escalates from here is going to have your jaw on the floor. Because the member coming in at number 4 didn't just buy something luxurious. They did something so grand, so unexpectedly massive, that it went beyond a gift and became a statement. A statement that said, Everything I have because of you. Get ready. Number 4, I.N. The magne who proved that the youngest can love the loudest. Now this is the one that's going to flip your entire perspective upside down, because when people think about gift giving in Stray Kids, when they imagine which member would go absolutely all out for their sibling, the magne is usually not the first name that comes to mind. But that's exactly why this story is so powerful, because young Hyunjin, the youngest member of Stray Kids, the baby of the group, the one everyone else has been protecting and babying since the survival show days, turned around and did something for his older brother that was so shockingly generous, so mature, so deeply intentional, that it forced everyone to confront an undeniable truth. I.N is not a kid anymore. He hasn't been for a long time. And the way he showed that wasn't through some dramatic declaration or rebellious moment. It was through one single gift that carried the weight of every sacrifice his family ever made for him. Let me paint the full picture here, because Jeonse's story doesn't hit right unless you understand where he came from and what his family went through. Young Hyunjin was born on February 8, 2001, in Busan, South Korea, the same city that produced BTS's Jimin and Jungkook, the same coastal metropolis known for its beaches, its seafood markets, and its fiercely proud local identity. He grew up with his parents and his older brother in what has been described as a loving, supportive, but not extravagant household. Busan families, culturally speaking, tend to be tight-knit, straightforward, and deeply loyal, and the Yang family was no exception. Jeonse's older brother, who has remained largely out of the public eye by choice, was by all accounts the typical Korean older sibling, the one who was expected to be responsible, to set the tone, to walk the conventional path. And then his little brother decided he wanted to be a K-pop idol. Now, imagine being the older brother in that scenario. Your younger sibling, the one you've been looking after, the one you've been sharing a room with, the one who used to follow you around like a shadow, comes to you and says he wants to audition for one of the biggest entertainment companies in Korea. He wants to move to Seoul. He wants to train. He wants to dance and sing and compete against thousands of other kids for a shot at something that, statistically, has a success rate lower than getting struck by lightning. What do you say? Do you tell him he's crazy? Do you try to protect him from the almost certain heartbreak? Or do you swallow your worry, put on a brave face, and tell him to go for it? Jeonse's brother chose the latter. And that choice, that single, quiet act of support, is something Jeonse has never forgotten. He's mentioned it in subtle ways across multiple platforms over the years. Not in big, dramatic speeches, but in the way he talks about his brother with this specific tone of voice that's different from how he talks about anything else. It's softer, more careful, like he's handling something fragile and precious. Because in Jeonse's mind, his brother didn't just support him, his brother gave up the version of their relationship where they'd both be in Busan, hanging out on weekends, growing up side by side. His brother let him go. And if you've ever had a sibling move far away, you know that letting go isn't a one-time action. It's a continuous choice. It's choosing not to guilt-trip them for missing family events. It's choosing to be happy for them when they succeed even though their success means they're further away than ever. It's choosing to text, "I'm proud of you," instead of, "I miss you, come home." Jeonse's brother made that choice every single day for years. And when Stray Kids exploded, when the albums went platinum, when the world tours sold out, when the brand deals and endorsements started flooding in, Jeonse knew exactly what he needed to do. He needed to give back. Not because he owed a debt, but because love that deep demands expression. And the expression he chose? It was absolutely staggering. Based on information gathered from fan sign interactions, bubble messages, and details Jeonse shared during various events throughout late 2022 and 2023, the magne of Stray Kids gifted his older brother a complete premium luxury wardrobe overhaul, and when I say complete, I mean complete. We're talking multiple pieces from top-tier designer brands, outerwear, shoes, bags, accessories, essentially a full closet transformation curated by Jeonse himself. This wasn't a single item in a gift bag. This was a statement. This was Jeonse walking into his brother's life and saying, "You supported my dream when it cost you something, and now I'm going to make sure you have the best of everything I can offer." Fans who meticulously tracked the details, because stays are genuinely the FBI of the K-pop world. Nothing gets past them, estimated the total value of the wardrobe package to be somewhere in the range of 20 to 27 million Korean won. That translates to approximately 15,000 to 20,000 USD. $20,000. From the youngest member. For his older brother. Let that hit you. The magne, the one the other 7 members still call baby bread, the one they squish and cuddle and treat like a younger sibling, spent up to $20,000 on his actual older sibling without blinking. And the emotional dynamics here are what elevate this from expensive gift to genuinely life-altering moment. Because in Korean family culture, the younger sibling giving the older sibling an extravagant gift carries a very specific emotional resonance. It's a reversal of the expected flow. Traditionally, it's the older sibling who provides, who takes care of, who gives. The younger one receives. So when Hyunjin flipped that dynamic, when he became the provider, the caretaker, the one who gives, it wasn't just a financial gesture. It was a symbolic declaration of adulthood. It was Hyunjin saying, "I'm not the little kid you used to protect anymore. I'm a man now. And I can take care of you the way you took care of me." Can you imagine what that moment felt like for his older brother? Your baby brother, the one whose diapers you probably changed, the one you taught how to ride a bike, the one who used to cry when you wouldn't share your toys, shows up with a wardrobe worth more than most people's cars. Not as a flex, not as a show of wealth, but as an act of love so pure and so overwhelming that you probably don't even know how to respond. Do you cry? Do you laugh? Do you stand there in stunned silence trying to process the fact that the little kid from Busan who used to follow you around the house is now a global superstar who just dropped 20 grand on you like it was nothing? Knowing Hyunjin, he probably tried to play it cool. He probably handed over the bags with that signature shy smile of his, maybe cracked a joke to diffuse the emotional tension, maybe looked away when his brother's eyes started getting watery. Because despite his incredible growth, despite the confidence he's built on stage, despite the fact that he performs in front of hundreds of thousands of people without flinching, Hyunjin is still, at his core, a boy from Busan who gets a little embarrassed when emotions get too big for the room. And that is what makes him so endearing. That contrast between the idol who commands stadium stages and the kid brother who still gets shy around his own family is what makes young Hyunjin one of the most authentically lovable people in the entire entertainment industry. But here's the real kicker, the detail that sends this story from touching into absolutely devastating territory. Fans noticed that in the weeks following the gift, Hyunjin's bubble messages had a slightly different energy. Lighter. More at peace. Like a weight he'd been carrying for years had finally been lifted off his shoulders. And maybe it had. Maybe the guilt of leaving home, of being the one who got to chase the dream while his brother stayed behind and lived a normal life. Maybe that guilt had been sitting in Hyunjin's chest for years. And maybe, just maybe, that $20,000 wardrobe was his way of finally exhaling. Of finally saying, okay, I've done something. I've given back. It's not everything, but it's a start. And if that doesn't make you look at the magne of Stray Kids differently, I honestly don't know what to tell you. Now, brace yourselves, because the top three, they're operating on a completely different level. The member at number 3 didn't just give a gift, they gave something that made their siblings JW hit the floor. And the amount of money involved? It's the kind of number that makes your brain buffer. Keep watching. Number 3, Han, the genius songwriter who turned his deepest emotions into his brother's greatest surprise. Okay, I need you to stop whatever you're doing. Put down your phone. Close the other tabs. Turn off the notifications. Because what I'm about to tell you about Han Ji-sung is the kind of story that doesn't just live in your head for a few minutes and then disappears. This one stays with you. This one sits in your chest and aches. Because Han Ji-sung, the lyrical genius, the lightning-fast rapper, the guy who can write a chart-topping song in the time it takes most people to decide what to eat for lunch, is also one of the most emotionally complex, deeply vulnerable, and fiercely loving human beings you will ever learn about. And the gift he gave his older brother? It wasn't just expensive. It wasn't just luxurious. It was a reckoning. A full-circle moment so emotionally loaded that when the details came out, even the most stoic, stone-faced stays were sitting in front of their screens with tears rolling down their cheeks. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let me start at the beginning, because Han Ji-sung's backstory is one of the most underappreciated origin stories in all of K-pop, and you need every piece of it to understand why this gift mattered so much. Han Ji-sung was born on September 14, 2000, in Incheon, South Korea. But here's the part that most people either don't know or forget. He didn't grow up entirely in Korea. When Ji-sung was young, his family relocated to Malaysia. That's right. Before he was Three Ratch's wordsmith, before he was Stray Kids' secret weapon, before he was the guy who could switch from EGO to aggressive rap in the span of a single breath, he was a Korean kid trying to navigate life in a completely different country. And he had his older brother right there beside him. Ji-sung's older brother, who, like many K-pop idols' family members, has maintained a relatively low profile, was his anchor during those years abroad. Think about what it's like to be a kid in a foreign country where the language is different, the culture is different, the food is different, and everything that felt familiar is suddenly gone. Now imagine having an older brother who goes through all of that with you, who sits next to you at a new school where neither of you knows anyone, who eats lunch with you when you have no other friends, who becomes, by necessity and by choice, your entire social world in a place where you're both outsiders. That's what Ji-sung and his brother shared. They weren't just siblings, they were survival partners. They were each other's home when home was 10,000 miles away. And that kind of bond? That kind of us against the world brotherhood? It doesn't just fade when circumstances change. It calcifies. It becomes part of your foundation, part of the bedrock of who you are. So when the family eventually moved back to Korea and Ji-sung decided to pursue his dream of becoming a K-pop idol, when he auditioned for JYP Entertainment and got in, when he started training, when he joined the survival show, when he debuted with Stray Kids, his older brother wasn't just watching from a distance. He was feeling every moment of it, every performance, every comeback. Every late-night studio session where Ji-sung was pouring his anxiety, his fear, his hope, and his love into lyrics that would eventually be heard by millions of people around the world. And speaking of anxiety, let's address the elephant in the room, because you cannot tell Han Ji-sung's story honestly without talking about his mental health journey. Ji-sung has been remarkably, courageously open about his struggles with anxiety and panic attacks. He's talked about moments where the pressure of being an idol, the weight of expectations, the constant scrutiny, it all became too much. Moments where he couldn't breathe. Moments where he wanted to run. Moments where the only thing keeping him grounded was the knowledge that people loved him and believed in him. And his older brother was one of those people. Always. Without condition. Without reservation. Ji-sung has referenced it in bubble messages and in quiet moments during fan events, the fact that his brother was one of the people who talked him through some of his darkest periods. Not with grand gestures or dramatic interventions, but with the simple, steady presence of someone who says, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You're going to be okay." That kind of support doesn't have a price tag. You can't buy it. You can't earn it. It's a gift in itself. The gift of unwavering belief from someone who's known you since before you were anyone. So when Han Ji-sung finally reached a point in his career where the success was undeniable, when the royalties from his songwriting started stacking up, when the world tours were selling out, when Three Ratch's production credits were on albums selling millions of copies, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to give his brother something that matched the magnitude of what his brother had given him. And what he chose was breathtaking. According to details that emerged through fan interactions, bubble messages, and references Ji-sung made during fan sign events in 2023 and into early 2024, Han Ji-sung gifted his older brother a premium luxury watch. And not just any luxury watch. We're talking about a timepiece from one of the most prestigious Swiss watchmaking houses in the world. The kind of watch that comes in a presentation box that feels like opening a treasure chest. The kind of watch where the craftsmanship is so precise, so meticulous, that every gear, every spring, every microscopic component represents decades of horological tradition. The kind of watch that says, without words, you matter. Your time matters. And I want you to carry something extraordinary on your wrist every single day so that every time you glance down to check the hour, you remember that your little brother loves you more than words can express. Fans, and by fans, I mean the Stay detective agency that has never once failed to crack a case, analyzed every detail Jisung let slip, and estimated the value of the watch to be in the range of 30 to 40 million Korean won. That's approximately 22,000 to 30,000 USD. $30,000 for a watch. For his brother. The songwriter who pours his heart into every verse, who turns his pain into platinum records, who transforms his vulnerability into art that resonates with millions, that same songwriter looked at his older brother and said, "No amount of money will ever equal what you've given me, but I'm going to try." And here's the detail that absolutely destroys me. According to what fans pieced together, Jisung didn't just hand the watch over casually. He apparently planned the reveal carefully, waiting for a specific family gathering, choosing the right moment, and presenting it in a way that caught his brother completely off guard. And when his brother opened the box, when he saw what was inside, when the reality of what his little brother had just done hit him full force, the room reportedly went silent. That kind of silence. The kind that happens when emotion is so thick in the air that words become physically impossible. The kind of silence where everyone present holds their breath because they can feel something sacred happening. And then, according to fan accounts of what Jisung later shared, his brother just looked at him. Didn't say anything at first. Just looked at him with an expression that carried years of shared memories. The apartment in Malaysia where they were both lonely kids finding comfort in each other. The goodbye when Jisung left for trainee life. The phone calls during the dark periods when anxiety made everything feel impossible. The pride of watching your little brother become a global superstar. All of it compressed into a single look across a dinner table. And then his brother hugged him. That's it. No speech. No dramatic reaction. Just a hug. A long, tight, silent hug between two brothers who had been through things together that no one else in the world could fully understand. Jisung, being Jisung, apparently tried to crack a joke to break the tension afterward because this is a guy who uses humor as a defense mechanism against overwhelming emotion, and if you've watched literally any Stray Kids content, you know that's the most Han Jisung move possible. Make people laugh before they see you cry. But the fans who interacted with him in the days following the gift said his eyes were different. Lighter. Like something that had been pulling at him for years had finally been released. Like the boy who spent his childhood as an outsider in a foreign country, who battled his own mind to stay in the industry, who wrote his trauma into songs that healed millions of strangers. Like that boy had finally found a way to say thank you to the one person who stood beside him before any of it began. And you know what the most heartbreaking part is? When a fan asked Jisung during a fan sign if he felt proud of the gift he gave, he paused, and anyone who knows Jisung knows his pauses are always loaded, and he said something along the lines of, proud. No. Grateful. I'm just grateful he's my brother. Grateful. Number 2, Changbin, the dark horse who bought his sister a gift that left the entire fandom speechless. I want you to take a deep breath right now. Seriously. Inhale. Exhale. Because what I'm about to tell you about Changbin, the compact powerhouse, the dark rapper with the golden heart, the guy who hits the stage like a freight train and then immediately turns into a giggling teddy bear the moment the cameras go off. This story is going to rearrange the furniture in your brain. You think you know Changbin? You think you've got him figured out? The muscles, the intense rap delivery, the spear bee persona that sounds like it could punch through concrete? Yeah, forget all of that for the next few minutes. Because behind all of that raw power, behind the aggressive bars and the neck vein popping performances, there is a man who loves his older sister with a ferocity that makes everything else he does look casual by comparison. And the gift he gave her? It wasn't a watch. It wasn't jewelry. It wasn't a wardrobe upgrade. It was the kind of gift that makes you pull out your calculator, double-check the numbers, and then sit there in stunned silence because your brain genuinely cannot reconcile the amount with the reality. Let me take you back, way back, to where this all started. Changbin was born on August 11th, 1999, in Yongin, Gyeonggi Province, South Korea, a suburban city about an hour south of Seoul that's known for being home to Everland, South Korea's largest theme park. He grew up with his parents and his older sister in what most accounts describe as a comfortable, stable household. And this is important context because Changbin's family background is slightly different from some of the other members. While several Stray Kids members have talked about growing up in modest circumstances, Changbin's family was reportedly relatively well off, not extravagantly wealthy, but stable enough that the decision to let their son pursue an idol career wasn't driven by financial desperation. It was driven by belief. His parents believed in him. His sister believed in him. And Changbin, fueled by that belief, threw himself into the trainee life at JYP Entertainment with the kind of all-or-nothing intensity that would later define his entire career. But here's the thing about Changbin that people don't always appreciate. The pressure he puts on himself is astronomical. This is a guy who has openly talked about feeling like he needs to prove himself constantly, like he needs to work harder than everyone else, like he needs to be better, stronger, faster, more productive. Part of that is his natural competitive drive. But part of it, a big part, comes from a deep-seated desire to justify the faith his family placed in him. To make sure that their belief wasn't wasted. To make sure that every sacrifice, every compromise, every moment of worry they experienced while their son was training in Seoul, grinding in studios, competing on a survival show, he wanted to make sure all of it was worth something. And his older sister? She was the person whose approval mattered most. Changbin has dropped hints about this across numerous platforms over the years, in bubble messages, in fan sign conversations, in those rare unguarded moments during V-Lives where his tough exterior cracks just enough to let the real Changbin peek through. His sister wasn't just a sibling to him. She was a benchmark, a mirror. The person whose opinion he trusted above almost everyone else's, because she knew him before the fame, before the muscles, before the spearby persona. She knew him as just Changbin. Just her little brother from Yongin who used to annoy her and make her laugh in equal measure. And she never let the fame change how she treated him. That's the critical detail. As Stray Kids grew from a mid-tier group into a global phenomenon, as Changbin went from a trainee rapper to one of the most respected lyricists in fourth-generation K-pop, his sister apparently never once treated him differently. She didn't suddenly start asking for things. She didn't try to leverage his success. She just continued being his sister, teasing him, supporting him, keeping him grounded, reminding him that behind all the accolades and the album sales, he was still the same kid who used to steal her snacks and then blame the dog. That kind of unconditional normalcy in a world where everything else is constantly inflated and distorted by fame is worth more than any paycheck. And Changbin knew it. So when the money started flowing in, and let's be clear about this, Stray Kids members, especially the three Ratcha producers who earn songwriting and production royalties on top of their group income, are doing very well financially. Changbin didn't just want to buy his sister a nice gift. He wanted to change her daily life. He wanted to give her something that she would use every single day, something that would make her life tangibly, measurably, undeniably better. And that's exactly what he did. According to details that surfaced through fan-compiled information from bubble messages, fan sign interactions, and references Changbin made during events in 2023, Changbin purchased his older sister a brand new luxury car. A car. Not a keychain. Not a scarf. Not a candle. A full, factory-new, premium luxury vehicle, reportedly a compact luxury SUV from one of Korea's most prestigious automotive brands, fully loaded with every available option and upgrade. We're talking leather interiors, premium sound system, advanced safety features, the panoramic sunroof, navigation, heated seats, the works. Every box checked. Every upgrade selected. Because Changbin doesn't do anything halfway, and if he was going to buy his sister a car, it was going to be the best version of that car available on the lot. Fans, naturally, went absolutely nuclear when the details started circulating. The State Forensic Accounting Department, which, at this point, should genuinely be hired by the actual government, estimated the value of the vehicle to be in the range of approximately 45 to 60 million Korean won. That's roughly 33,000 to 45,000 USD. A $45,000 car. For his sister. From the same guy who once said in an interview that his biggest fear wasn't failure on stage, it was disappointing the people who believed in him before he had anything to show for it. And the way it happened? Pure Changbin cinema. According to what fans pieced together from his subsequent messages and fan sign comments, Changbin didn't just hand his sister a set of keys over dinner. No. He apparently arranged for the car to be delivered while his sister was at work, so that when she came out to the parking lot at the end of her day, there it was. Brand new. Gleaming. With a bow on it, an actual BOW, like something out of a car commercial. And sitting on the driver's seat? A handwritten note from Changbin. Now, we don't know exactly what the note said. Changbin, despite his lyrical genius, is surprisingly private about his most personal moments, but fans who asked him about it at a subsequent fan sign said his expression changed when the topic came up. The cocky, confident Spearby mask slipped for just a second, and underneath it was something raw. Something real. Something that looked a lot like a little brother who is still, after everything, seeking the approval of the person he looked up to most. His sister's reaction, based on what Changbin shared, was exactly what you'd imagine: complete and total shock. She apparently called him immediately, barely able to form coherent sentences, alternating between laughing and crying in that specific way people do when reality exceeds their wildest expectations. And Changbin? The tough guy? The rapper who performs with the intensity of a thunderstorm? He sat on the other end of that phone call and listened to his sister happy cry, and according to what he later told fans with that rare, soft smile of his, it was the best sound he'd ever heard. Better than any crowd. Better than any chart position. Better than any award speech. His sister crying happy tears because of something he did. That was his Grammy. His Oscar. His Nobel Prize. Let me contextualize this for you, because sometimes numbers lose their meaning when you hear too many of them. $45,000 is more than the median annual household income in many countries. It's a down payment on a house in some markets. It's enough to fund a university education. And Changbin spent it on a single gift for his sister, not because he's reckless with money, not because he was showing off, but because he genuinely believes that the people who supported him through his darkest, most uncertain days deserve to reap the rewards of his success. There's a philosophy embedded in Korean culture called hyodo, filial piety, the duty of caring for your family. But what Changbin did goes beyond duty. Duty is obligation. What Changbin did was devotion. Number 1, Lino, the silent guardian who gave his brother a future most people can only dream of. This is it. The summit. The peak. The absolute apex of sibling love in Stray Kids, and, honestly, possibly in the entire K-pop industry. And the fact that it belongs to Lee Miho, Lino, is so perfectly poetic, so beautifully fitting, that it almost feels like the universe scripted it. Because if there's one member of Stray Kids who has built his entire identity around the art of loving quietly, of caring ferociously while pretending he doesn't care at all, of hiding the deepest heart in the group behind the sharpest tongue, it's Lino. And what he did for his younger brother isn't just a gift. It's not just a gesture. It's the kind of act that fundamentally redefines what it means to be a sibling, what it means to succeed, and what it means to use your success as a bridge for someone else's future. So sit down, shut everything else out, and listen, because this is the one that's going to stay with you long after you close this video. Lee Miho was born on October 25, 1998, in Gimpo, South Korea, a city just west of Seoul, right next to the airport. The kind of place that's close enough to the capital to feel its gravitational pull, but far enough to maintain its own identity. He grew up with his parents and his younger brother in what he's described, in his characteristically understated way, as a normal family. But here's what you learn about Lino over time. His definition of normal is deceptive. Because underneath that word is a family that worked hard, that made sacrifices, that poured everything they had into giving their sons a stable, loving foundation even when resources were tight. Lee Know doesn't talk about money the way some idols do. He doesn't casually reference luxury or wealth. When he talks about his childhood, he talks about home-cooked meals, about his cuts, about small, quiet moments that wouldn't make headlines but clearly made him. And his younger brother was woven into every single one of those moments. Now, Lee Know's relationship with his younger brother is one of the most quietly fascinating dynamics in all of Stray Kids lore, because it mirrors exactly how Lee Know operates within the group itself. He's not the guy who says, "I love you" every 5 minutes. He's not the one making dramatic declarations of affection. He's the one who shows up. Consistently. Reliably. Without announcement. He's the member who cooks for the other guys without being asked. Who notices when someone is having a bad day before they even say anything. Who disguises his care as teasing and his worry as sarcasm because being emotionally vulnerable in an obvious way makes him uncomfortable. And with his younger brother, it's amplified tenfold. From the fragments fans have gathered over the years, through rare bubble messages, the occasional fan sign revelation, and those blink and you miss it moments in interviews where Lee Know's carefully constructed wall drops for half a second. The picture that emerges is of an older brother who has been quietly, almost invisibly, looking out for his younger sibling his entire life. The kind of older brother who walks on the traffic side of the sidewalk without saying why. Who gives you the bigger portion at dinner without acknowledging it? Who stays up late not because he's not tired, but because he wants to make sure you fall asleep first? That's Lee Miho. That's who he's always been. And when Stray Kids' success reached a level that even Lee Know himself probably never fully imagined, when the world tours were selling out stadiums on multiple continents, when the album sales were shattering records, when the brand deals and endorsement checks were hitting bank accounts with numbers that would make most people dizzy, Lee Know didn't buy himself a fleet of sports cars. He didn't renovate a mansion. He didn't go on some extravagant spending spree to celebrate his own success. He sat down, thought carefully, and made a decision that would alter his younger brother's life trajectory in the most profound way possible. According to information meticulously compiled by fans from bubble messages, fan sign interactions, and subtle references Lee Know made throughout 2023 and into 2024, Lee Miho provided his younger brother with the full deposit for a jeonse lease on an apartment. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Korean housing system, let me explain why this is such an astronomically significant gift, because without this context, you cannot fully appreciate the magnitude of what Lee Know did. In South Korea, the housing market operates on a unique system called jeonse, which is a lease arrangement where instead of paying monthly rent, a tenant provides a massive lump sum deposit to the landlord, often equivalent to 50 to 80% of the property's total market value. The landlord invests that deposit and earns returns on it, while the tenant lives in the property rent-free for the duration of the lease, typically 2 years, after which the full deposit is returned. It sounds great in theory, but the catch is that the upfront deposit is enormous. In Seoul and its surrounding metropolitan areas, jeonse deposits for even a modest apartment can easily range from 100 million to 300 million Korean won or more. We're talking about amounts that most young Koreans in their 20s spend years, sometimes a decade, saving up for, often with the combined financial support of their parents, grandparents, and extended family. It is, without exaggeration, one of the single biggest financial hurdles in a young Korean person's life. And Lee Know just covered it. For his brother. The full deposit. Fans who analyze the available information, the area where his brother was reportedly living, the average jeonse rates for that region, the timeline of when the arrangement was made, estimated the deposit to be somewhere in the range of 80 to 130 million Korean won. Let's take a step back and look at the full picture of what we just witnessed. 8 members of Stray Kids, 8 extraordinary acts of sibling love. 8 stories that prove fame and fortune mean nothing if you don't share them with the people who were there before any of it existed. And there you have it, top 8 members of Stray Kids who gave their siblings the most expensive gifts. 8 members. 8 stories. 8 reminders that behind every stage, behind every comeback, behind every perfectly synchronized performance, there are real human beings with real families and real love that no camera will ever fully capture. These aren't just idols. They're brothers, sons, the kids who left home with nothing but a dream and came back with the ability to change their families' lives forever. If this list taught us anything, it's that stray kids don't just make kids stay, they make sure the people who matter most are never left behind. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying until the very end. And if any of these stories touched your heart, share this with someone who needs to hear it, because in a world that often feels cold and disconnected, stories like these remind us that love, in its purest form, is still the most powerful force on earth. This channel is now closed. Until next time, stay safe, stay kind, and never forget to tell your siblings you love them.